This video is going to help you solve equations when you have variables on both sides of that equal sign. So if you take a look, this is different than equations we've been solving because you have a variable term on the left side of the equation as well as a variable term on the right side of the equation. And all we have to do is get rid of one of those variable terms and it'll turn into an equation that we know how to solve. So my hint to you is to always eliminate the smaller variable term. That way you'll eliminate working with a lot more negatives. So let's start solving this guy. And the first thing I want to do is determine which of my variable terms is smallest. So 4x is smaller than 6x, so I want to try and eliminate that 4x. Now if you have 4x's and you want to eliminate that, all you have to do is subtract 4x from both sides. I have to do that on the right side to eliminate the 4x, and on the left side to keep things balanced, I'm going to subtract that same 4x. So you notice over here, what I have is a zero pair, and when I do the math on both sides, my zero pair cancels out, so I'm left with -1. And on the left, I do my math, 6x minus 4x is 2x, and I still have that constant of -5. And I should recognize this equation and know how to solve that from our past lessons. I need to make my constant that's on the same side as the variable a 0. So my constant right now is a -5, and my job is to make that 0. So if I'm at -5 and I want to get to 0, I'm going to add 5. And in order to keep my equation balanced, I have to do the same thing on both sides. On the left side, you've got your zero pair, so all you have left is 2x. And on the right side, you just have some integer addition. -1 plus 5 is a +4. And our last step is to make the coefficient a 1, and right now it's a 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. These will cancel and leave me with 1x, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now remember, we always want to check our work to make sure that our answers are correct. So let's go ahead and erase all this work. And we check by substituting that value of 2 in for x. So when I substitute in, I have 6 times 2 minus 5 equals 4 times 2 minus 1. Now just make sure you follow your order of operations. 6 times 2 is 12. And on the right, 4 times 2 is 8. And 12 minus 5 is 7. 8 minus 1 is also 7. So that proves that I have the correct answer as x equal 2. For our second problem, we're going to look when one of our variable terms is negative. So once again, look at your variable terms and determine which is the smaller value. Is it the positive 2x or the -3? Since -3 is smaller than a positive 2, I'm going to eliminate that term instead. So if I'm at -3x, the way to eliminate that would be to do the inverse operation, which is adding 3x. So I'm going to add 3x on the right side. And on the left side, I have to do the same thing to keep it balanced. And let's do our math. On the left, 2x plus 3x is going to give us 5x. And this is my zero pair, so that cancels, and I'm left with a -2. And once again, go through your steps. I'm going to add 7 on both sides. On the left side, it's going to create that zero pair. On the right side, I just have a math problem. So 5x equals -2 plus 7 is going to give us a +5. And solve by dividing by 5. And I come up with a solution of x equals 1. Go ahead and check your work. I'm going to substitute that 1 into my equation. And 2 times 1 minus 7 equals -3 times 1 minus 2. 2 times 1 is 2. And on the right, -3 times 1 is a -3. 2 minus a 7, you're taking away more than you have, so your answer is going to be negative. And -3 minus 2 is just going deeper into the negatives, so you get -5 on both sides, which shows that x equals 1 is our solution, because when substituted in to both x's, I get a true statement, which is -5 equals -5. So once again, the answer is 1. This is just the work to show that we've got the right answer. The last problem for this video is going to be when both of the terms are negative. So this is when students tend to move the wrong one, but if you do the math correctly, you'll still get the right answer. You'll just have to work with a little more negatives, which we should be okay with, but most kids want to avoid them. So when you're looking at your terms that involve the variable, which one is smaller? Now, -4 is deeper into the negatives, and if you remember, if there's no coefficient, it's really a 1. So the coefficient on the right side is a -1, the coefficient on the left is a -4. And -4 is smaller, so we're going to get rid of that guy instead of getting rid of the -1. So in order to get rid of a -4x, I'm going to add 4x to both sides. And that's going to keep everything balanced. And you could put that 1 in there as your coefficient if you want, but you don't have to. And this is my 0 pair. -1 plus 4x. Be careful with your integer math. You're at a positive 3x. And on the right side, we're going to make that constant 0 because I'm back to a basic two-step equation. So since my constant is a -3, I'm going to add 3 to the right and add 3 to the left. That keeps it balanced. -9 plus 3 is a -6. And that gives me 3x on the right because of my 0 pair. When I divide by 3, be careful, -6 divided by a positive 3 is going to give me a -2. Now that step that everybody thinks is so meaningless, but it'll show that you're correct, is to check. And once again, checking does not take long, but it'll make sure that you have the correct answer. So when I check, you just substitute -2 in for x. It's -4 times a -2. And this is where knowing that -1 is there comes in handy. It's really a -1 times a -2 and then -3. So the only thing we're changing is our variable. A negative times a negative will always give us a positive. And on the right, you'll see the same thing. A -1 times a -2 is a positive 2, and I have -3. 8 minus 9, since we're taking away more than we have, it's a negative answer. And the same thing happens on the right. You have 2, when you take away 3, you wind up at -1. So since this checks out, the left side equals the right side, I know that -2 is the correct solution to this equation.